So joining me, or should I say on stage now, is Turner. And from, I guess, my right to my left, you've got Cecilia Persson, who heads up acquisitions, co-productions. You've got Sarah Fell, who's exec producer, and Patricia Hidalgo, who I will say is the big boss. That's the correct title, I believe. Thank you. Well, as you can probably see, there's already some quite big interest there. So I've got some different ones, actually, which we can maybe get to when we start to talk about Turner. But I think we're going to see some slides, maybe, to start this session off.
Yeah, before we see those slides, I just wanted to say a couple of things that are happening for us in the company, which I think is important as we come to these markets. So one of them, last year I was here announcing that we were going to make Boomerang a second flagship channel globally. And as you saw, we rebranded it together with the US. We gave it a boost in that sense. And just recently, we just signed a contract with our brothers at WB, at Warner Brothers, for 150 half hours of fresh new content coming not just from our well-known libraries, but also new IPs. So that's just to say, I mean, that 450 is not enough. We need more. So it's just to underline that we are very serious about our investment in content, and Boomerang for us is a very important brand, along with Cartoon Network. And the other thing that I wanted to say, is in the same way as Nickelodeon, we also are part of a global a pilot of a short program in the US, and we just finally finished the first UK born pilot with George Gendy, Apple and Onion, which is been developed in the LA studios, and both Cecilia and Sarah will talk a little bit more about these two subjects in a minute.
Okay. I think we have some slides to show here about the channels.
Oh, okay. So we'll do this first, and then we'll talk about what we are doing in terms of commissioning and sourcing for content. This is just to give you an idea of what our portfolio of brand is, of channel brands are. Here in the UK, we do have Cartoonito, which is very much a local proposition. Cartoon Network and Boomerang are two global flagship brands. And I'm not going to bore you with positioning and targeting and all that. That's why it's written out there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let the kids talk about our channel. So let's have a look at the video.
Cartoon Network makes me feel epic.
I'd recommend it to any of the kids in the universe.
All that crazy stuff that gets into your head.
That was so crazy! What just happened?
Some things are really unbelievable, and you're like, how does that happen?
I am eating spit!
It's just amazing.
Crazy stuff is good because you need a bit of crazy every once in a while. I watch all the time. Like Scooby-Doo, because like this, like monster. I really like Mr. B. He's just a little bit silly. No, but I love Tom and Jerry, yeah. That's funny. His legs spring up. Oh yeah, that's funny. If I ever left the TV, I'd really be mad. My mum still watches it.
So that's the two global brands, Cartoon Network and Boomerang. And as I said before, Cartoonito is actually a much more local play here in the UK. We also have it in Italy on free-to-air. And I'll let again the tape roll for that one.
Once there was a rocket. The dinosaur pajamas are going to space. He goes gung, gung, gung. And then this alien came up, a big robot silver elephant. And she has a ballet costume. She wears it every day. And then Fireman Sam came. He took a jug, tipped it onto the dragon, and he was melting.
Cartoonito, preschool TV that fires the imagination.
So that's for the channels.
There we go. We can record the video. It's so good. So I'm glad to get an idea of the channel, because obviously one of the other things I have been working on is an idea for Boomerang, which is Stickman and his friend Stick Bear. So I was interested to see whether that was still mainly going to be a channel about classic properties, because this obviously has been around since 1986. So is that still the case with Boomerang? You mentioned that it's changed, there's new logos and stuff, so I'm just curious to see how my idea might make it onto that channel.
Probably will make it. Yeah, well, Boomerang is the heart of this brand. Really resides on the great animation, classic animation from Hanna-Barbera and Warner Brothers. When you think Tom and Jerry and Scooby-Doo and the Looney Tunes, that type of whimsical, funny, comedy that comes through those shows, and going back to the classic way of animating shows. That's what Boomerang is about. It has that co-viewing opportunity because it does have, it's relevant to the parents as well as to the kids, because we grew up with this content. But that doesn't mean that that's the only content that we're going to be making. As long as the show fits that same values that those old classics have, that there is a place for the shows on Boomerang.
Okay, so I've got a chance then.
Yes, absolutely.
So I also wanted to ask you, and it kind of throws a little bit to the gentleman's question to Nickelodeon earlier. When I was doing my research and working on all my projects for hours at night, I noticed that with some of the stuff that's made in the UK, it's possibly fair to say that the older demographic hasn't been looked after as well, or there isn't as much, especially in the animation area. But Turner have done a really great thing, I think, with Gumball. I think it's fair to say, and obviously with Stickman, I'm thinking it possibly could become the next Gumball. I'm quite keen to work with Sarah as well. So I'm interested to know, can you talk a bit about how Gumball came about, whether you're looking for the next thing to go in the studio, maybe talk a bit about Apple and Onion, which you mentioned earlier, because there's quite a good story there with the UK creator. Keen to hear that.
So as you know, probably but not a lot of people know, George Kennedy actually worked on Gumball. He was one of the storyboarders there, and he came up with the idea of Apple and Onion when he was working there. And when I joined Turner 2 years ago, I had a look at what had been done in terms of development in the studio, and came across Apple and Onion and really fell in love with it. And so I called Rob Sorcha in the US, and I said, we have this global piloting program. I have something really good here that I think we should put into development. And he saw it, he loved it, and that's how we basically got it going. But now we are, that's one. Yeah. We want more. So maybe Sarah can talk a little bit about how we are approaching trying to get more.
Very keen to hear from Sarah on how you're approaching it. So, yeah, well, as you know.
I'm the producer of Gumball, but I'm also covering international shorts programming. So we're driving ideas from the UK into our creator-driven studio approach, and we're going to be working with the US to send people over there to do more pilot work with them. So we're sourcing here, and then they go over there. That's the idea. It's to embrace the creator-driven studio feeling for Cartoon Network that you only really get sort of, it's quite special, that kind of thing. So yeah, we are talking to people.
You did mention, I probably put you on the spot here, that you were looking for people for the studio in terms of just Maybe you can talk a bit about that, because that's pretty much how George managed to get his idea found, as I understand.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, obviously Gumball's now we're in production with the 4th season and the 5th season. So we've been going for quite a while now. We've had a lot of great creative talent through the studio. Some of these guys are going on to do their own things, George being one of them. And we're obviously constantly recruiting for talents because I suppose we've got an in-house studio. You know, we've got the creators with us. We are making the show within the channel itself. So I suppose that's somewhat different. And it means that we're directly connected to all the creators out there. So a lot of them have come across me actually making programming. So it's quite an interesting way of getting people. There are other ways, but that's a good way.
And then presumably, you know, vacancies and stuff are on the Turner corporate website people can look up, or should they just find you in the bar tonight and buy you a drink? Or
I will be in a bar tonight. No, we're gonna split it. Cecilia's your approach angle here.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was obviously looking forward to asking Cecilia some questions as well, because we've spoken a lot about grassroots stuff, but when I look at the Turner schedules, there's quite a lot of third-party content there. So, you know, I was keen to know what kind of models work best for Turner. What's a good way to approach you if you're not, you know, the bedroom creator like I am, or you know, that kind of person? Maybe you can talk a bit about that.
Sorry. We are ready to take, you know, anybody's pitches. My role is international, so I solicit pitches from around the world. And Sia Bales, who is our acquisitions manager, is my partner in crime in this area. And, you know, if you have a creative idea and you're at the stage where you're comfortable and feel ready to pitch it to us, we are very happy to listen to you and hear what you have to say. You've seen the brands we're looking for, and yeah, we have a lot of slots and are happy to work with third parties.
So just on while you're talking about pitching there, because obviously I've got quite a big pitch coming up with Disney afterwards, which I need some tips on maybe. But maybe there was, when I was thinking about this session, there was something that came up, and I was thinking about it, because you often see really snazzy presentations. We've seen lots of great reels from the companies here, and I just remember when, for those of you who don't know, I used to work with these guys for many years, that we had one pitch in particular, Cecilia, that may be slightly different from that, and actually more in the lines of, you know, the kind of stuff that I've knocked up there. So maybe you could talk to people about that, because it's quite an interesting story, I think.
Yeah, so I don't know if I should mention names, but somebody who we now know, which we didn't at the time, came in and had really studied what we were trying to accomplish with Cartonito. As you know, we came later into the game in preschool in the UK, so you know, we had some catching up to do, and Richard and I had a big task because we don't have a studio that backs us with Cartonito. It's an acquisitions-driven channel to a large extent. We do some local productions as well, but the bread and butter has been acquisition since launch. And this producer came in and he had, I think it was 3 ideas, and it was just a few lines on a paper. He had nothing to show us, but he basically explained them to us and how they linked in what we tried to accomplish for the channel. And we went with every one of them. So, and we went into production, I think, just a couple of weeks later. So we are very open to hear great ideas. And if you look at our channels and see what we have, you know, we're not looking for more of the same. We're looking for, you know, creatively, passionately driven shows and ideas, you know, with great characters. And you know, think about our audience. You know, you saw the kids up here on the screen. How can you inspire them? Why do they want to spend time with these characters that you've created? And come and tell us. And if you have a reel, you know, great. If you don't, that's good too. It's your passion that we want to buy into.
We didn't really get too much time with Marianne from Nickelodeon with consumer products. So, and I know none of you, that is your background, but I was just wondering if you could maybe quickly talk about Turner's role with consumer products. Is that into your thought process when you're commissioning, or?
Obviously, I think we all here in this room, and I think Nina and Marianne touched upon it, it's an important part to have something that takes the content into all environments and reaches the kids in several levels, and CP is definitely one of those ways. And you know, we first look at what the program is, what the idea is, what are the characters. But if this an ancillary position is available and it's something that will work, then we are obviously happy to you know, to work alongside with the creator to you know, see how that will manifest itself and continue and live with our brands. We don't have an active policy to take on third-party brands ourselves, but we do work alongside with the programming, the scheduling, the support we give, the content, the marketing plans, to make sure that it's properly supported and that it has, if needed, exposure on free-to-air and in other areas, whatever is suitable for that particular idea.
Okay, thanks, Cecilia. So we're getting to the point where we might take some questions from the floor. So if anybody wants to be brave enough to put their hands up or tweet Steve. I can't see, so that doesn't... Is there a hand here?
Yeah, do you ever do any sort of factual content-based programs? A lot of it is sort of make-believe.
Yeah, you want to do
Sure.
it?
Our brands, I think, it's you know, they're entertainment channel for kids. So we don't really have an active approach to factual content. We are you know, focus on messaging for kids that are positive, and you know, we've done, we're in the process and building up an anti-bullying messaging for our audience, because this is something that's close to our hearts, and we feel that our audience, well, I think all of our the kids out there have a lot of those pressures. So that's something we do. It's linked more to our websites than what it is on air, as we see ourselves as an entertainment network.
Someone at the front, I think, again. These lights don't help.
Hi. In your Cartoon Network branding, you've got another show called Steven Universe, which frequently touches on very sort of rather heavy topics and themes for young children audiences, and it's definitely very different from things like Gumball or other programming. Do you encourage that sort of heavy theme progression in shows? Is that what you look for, or have you ever had to step in to sort of curtail creative freedoms in that regard?
So as we were saying before, all our shows are very much creator-driven, and we try and give as much loose rein to the creation. So, you know, let the creators really drive those shows. That said, we do have a compliance standards and practice team that do look over every single script and animatic and episode before it gets actually made. It depends country by country, because some, you know, the standards for some markets are different than others. For example, in the US, the channel does do PG rating, so they do have a little bit of an older target that they do in the rest of international. As you know, internationally, if you have a kids network, it's supposed to be kids. It cannot be PG rated. So we do look at those shows, and if they do go to places that we feel are not appropriate for our local audiences, whether it's because of a cultural issue or because of some sort of regulation, then we would be editing those shows for our audiences.
Who is nearest?
There we go.
You mentioned that you're looking for new ideas. How do you submit the idea? Is there an email or?
Yeah. So yeah, it's like I said, Sia Bales, who's here. She's my partner in crime. It's too dark. Maybe there's her hand. So it's Cecilia Person or Sia Bales, and we're at turner.com. So, and contact us through email, and then we'll see what's the best way meeting up or talking on the phone or whatever.
Well, I will be at the pub later on this evening.
Or if you get her on the first class section on the train home, can of Stella maybe. I think there's. We've got one more question. One time for one more question. I think if the lady had a hand up somewhere there, just followed by hand.
Hello. I just wanted to ask if you would consider also short contents to use maybe as interstitials in the channel.
Yes, we certainly, not just as interstitials, but we are also, looking for content for all our digital platforms. So whether it's YouTube, CN Anything, or our Watch and Play apps, we do have a lot of platforms that are needy of this short form. So absolutely, yes, short form is something that we're very interested in.
Okay, I think that's our time for Turner. So please say thank you very much to Patricia, Sarah, and Cecilia.